Hello students, today we are going to take up An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum by Stephen Spender. This has been taken from your class 12 book Flamingo. Stephen Spender was an English poet and an essayist. He left University College, Oxford without taking a degree and went to Berlin in 1930. He took a keen interest in politics and declared himself to be a socialist and pacifist. A pacifist, children, is a person who believes that war and violence are not justified. Okay, and in this particular poem, the poet has depicted a true picture of the life of the school children living in the slum of Tyrolese Valley of Austrian Alpine province. The poem sensitively brings out the disparity between the formal education system and the reality of the lives of the poor. The poem discusses the pathetic situation of students in an elementary classroom in a slum. The poet talks of the problems and challenges these children face, and the poem ends with a powerful rallying cry for equality, justice, and opportunity. Now we shall take up the recitation and explanation of the poem simultaneously. This is the first stanza. Far, far from gusty waves, these children's faces, like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor, the tall girl with her weighed down head, the paper seeming boy with rat's eyes. All right. So now let us take up the first line first. You can see there is an alliteration and there is also a repetition of the word far here. So the word gusty, what does the word gusty mean? The word gusty means having gusto. Gusto, which refers to having enjoyment and enthusiasm in doing something. So the poet says that these slum children are far, far from enjoyment or enthusiasm. So you can see there is repetition as well as alliteration. Repetition of the word far indicates that the poet wants to emphasize that these children are really far from such experiences which will provide them any kind of enjoyment. In the next line, the poet compares them to the rootless weeds. There is a simile here. Children, as you all know, what are weeds? Weeds are unwanted and created, and they are considered a nuisance that they need to be immediately removed. So rootless here refers to means that they have no settled home. Just like weeds are not taken care of, these children are also completely neglected. Hair that is torn round their pallor indicates that. Pallor here refers to pale, lifeless faces of these slum children. All right. So, and it is suggesting disease and inactivity. Hair is all scattered over their pale faces, and then the poet starts describing the children individually. He starts with describing this tall girl. He talks of this tall girl with her weighed down head. Now, why do you think tall girl's head is bowed down? Well, it is possible that this girl is older than her classmates, and due to her age, she has to do a larger share of housework than others, and therefore she is tired and drowsy. Therefore, her head is bowed down. Okay. Next comes the paper seeming boy. Here, the poet has drawn a sharp image that comes in front of us. The poet says that the boy is thin and emaciated. His eyes are compared. There is again a simile here. Sorry, this is not a simile, children. This is a metaphor. Okay, you can see that there is no use of the word like or as here. So this is a metaphor. With rat's eyes means eyes that are like that of a rat. Okay, his eyes are compared to rat's eyes, meaning thereby that he is always looking for food as he is starved. Now the poet in the next line, we'll just go on to the next line. The stunted, unlucky heir of twisted bones reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk. At back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young, his eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in tree room other than this. So here we come to the end of the first stanza. So let me just quickly explain this now. So after the paper seeming boy, the poet talks of a boy whose growth has been arrested. He is undersized, his body is deformed because he is the unlucky heir of a father's gnarled disease. Please understand the use of the word heir is ironical here. Heir is someone who inherits something valuable or precious like property, any kind of jewelry, any kind of wealth, land, etc., etc. But here, this boy's only inheritance is his father's gnarled disease. Gnarled means children twisted. Okay, so here basically the poet is referring to rheumatism. In rheumatism, in this, what happens? In rheumatism, the joints get affected and the body is deformed, twisted. Okay. So this again, a sharp image has been portrayed by the poet. This boy suffering from rheumatism is struggling with his lessons. Okay, so of twisted bones, reciting a father's gnarled disease, his lesson from his desk. So in contrast to the tall girl, paper seeming boy, and the boy who has inherited his father's gnarled disease, now the poet portrays one unnoted, sweet young boy who is sitting at the back of this dim classroom. Look at these lines. At back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young, his eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in tree room other than this. So the poet says that his eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in tree room other than this. So this boy is definitely different from the rest of the children because he dares to dream. Needless to say, children, one who dreams eventually achieves. So, despite such underprivileged conditions, this boy's eyes sparkle as he has a dream in his eyes. He is thinking of the squirrel game, that too in a tree and not in this classroom in a slum. Squirrel game here, children, is metaphorical. Please understand this. It refers to enjoying and playing like all other kids are supposed to. He, like a squirrel, dreams to be free. His imagination takes him to the tree room where he escapes from this gloomy classroom. His tree room, children, is filled with joy, happiness, fun, curiosity, and perhaps even some kind of mystery. Now let's go on to the next stanza. In the second stanza, the poet describes the classroom, okay, its appearance. So first and foremost, he describes the walls of this classroom. They are not sparkling white classrooms. Instead, the color of the walls is a dull off whitish. The poet has used, children, this description because the walls are literally dirty and resemble the color of the sour cream. It could also be to point out the fact that the chipped old walls of the classroom gave a sour feeling. They were painted long ago with the donations that they had received. So now let us just see what all is portrayed or highlighted on these sour cream walls. I'm just going to recite these lines first. On sour cream walls, donations, Shakespeare's head, cloudless at dawn, civilized dome riding all cities, belled, flowery Turley's valley, open-handed map awarding the world its world. Okay. So now, first and foremost, what is that? What is it that we see? We see the Shakespeare's head. Shakespeare's picture is over there. Now, a face or picture of William Shakespeare can be seen. He is, as you all know, children, is the bard of English literature. He represents knowledge and wisdom, and therefore it is quite ironical that his his statue, which symbolizes the literate world, and that is in sharp contrast to the hopeless world of the slum. Then there is a beautiful scenery depicting cloudless sky at dawn. This image represents clear sky, which is pollution free in nature's lap, again, which is in contrast to the sealed lead sky of the slum. Then comes the civilized dome, which represents the rich, progressive, and civilized world. Outside the slum, this again is in contrast to the stagnant, dull slum. So these are some contrasting images. In the previous stanza, the poet has portrayed those sharp images where he talks of the paper seeming boy and then tall girl and then that boy who is, who has inherited his father's gnarl disease. So these were again those sharp images which were portrayed by him. Tyrolese Valley. Okay, now belled, flowery Tyrolese Valley. Belled refers to bell-shaped. This Tyrolese Valley, children, represents the pleasant, beautiful world in contrast to the dirty and filthy world of the classroom in a slum. So when we say Tyrol, Tyrol, Tyrol is a state in Austria, and it has some incredibly picturesque valleys which are full of flowers. Okay, one can also see the world map on these sour cream walls. Now, the map depicts the whole world to these children. Okay, so the map is something which is, depicting the whole world to these children. So open-handed map awarding the world uh, its world. So the phrase refers to the world map which is subject to a lot of changes. And yet, for these children, these windows, not this map, their world, where all their future is painted with a fog, a narrow street sealed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. Okay. So now in these last lines of stanza 2, he says, the poet says, however, for these children, the slum outside the windows of their classroom is their world. See, what does he say? For these children, these windows, not this map, their world. So this map, this world map is not their world, but these windows. Why? Because when they look out of the window, they see their world, which is their slum, their those tiny dwellings. Therefore, the poet says, yet for these children, these windows and not this map is their world. Through these windows, they can see their world, that is outside the windows, this slum in which they live in their world, which is painted with fog. Fog is symbolic of despair, indicating that their future is bleak, B-L-E-A-K, bleak. Their future is uncertain. Their lives are restricted to the narrow streets where their slum is situated. And not only this, their future children, the poet says, okay, uh, a narrow street sealed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of worlds. So here, what does it mean? Lead sky refers to the dull grayish sky that seems to turn the street into prison for these children. The slum is literally as well as metaphorically far away from the beautiful natural landscapes. All right. So here now then he says again, it is far, far from rivers, caves, and stars of words. Okay. Again, alliteration and repetition has been used to lay emphasis. So capes, what is a cape? Cape you can say is a large lake, or you can also say it is a high land which is sticking out onto a sea, or in simple words you can call it a large lake. Stars of the words refers to star-studded sky. Star-studded skies which are referring to a world that is full of opportunities. Just like stars in the sky, children are beyond these children's reach. These children are far away from the nature and from these beautiful natural landscapes around the world. All right, in the third stanza, he starts by saying, surely Shakespeare is wicked. You can see there is an alliteration over there. The map a bad example, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal, for lives that slyly turn in their cramped holes, from fog to endless night. On their slag heap, these children. I'll come to the next lines later on. Let's first do these 4 lines. Now, in this stanza, the poet starts by saying, surely Shakespeare is wicked. Now, what does he mean by this? Shakespeare is, again, as I told you in the previous stanza, is an epitome of knowledge and wisdom. He was a great playwright. His characters are elite. These slum children will never be able to relate with those characters. Here in slums where children are troubled by despair and disease, they'll hardly gain any literary training. Shakespeare definitely holds no interest for them. And so display of Shakespeare picture on the walls of their classroom is definitely, according to the poet, a bad idea. Then the poet says even map is a bad example. The map does not include their slum. So the map is a bad example because it does not include their slum. With ships and sun and love tempting them to steal. So it shows a world which is not theirs. The world is full of attractive places where one can see beautiful ships and the warmth of sun and love. Now the sun shines, and the sun shines with love and hope and optimism. All these things attract these children living in slum, and they want to steal the world. Since these children do not have the required resources to explore the places that they see in the map, what will they do? So they will have these harmful temptations. So such harmful temptations of theirs will lead them to steal in order to get the necessary money to indulge in these far off adventures. They ultimately have to live in their small, these tiny dwellings through the foggy days and long, dark nights. From fog to endless night. This is what the poet says on their slag heap. On their slag heap. So, slag heap here, children. Slag is a slag here. Slag heap means slum here. But what do you mean by that? So slag is basically a waste byproduct of coal mining, and when it is arranged in a heap, it is referred to as a slag heap. So according to the poet, the slum contains the waste of the society, and therefore it is referred to as slag heap. Now here the poet uses the word slyly. Okay, so children here basically these slum children turn to their tiny dwellings in a way that suggests some secret knowledge. They are not very happy to enter their cramped holes. They are not very happy to enter their tiny dwellings. So while entering that tiny dwelling of theirs, they are quite embarrassed, perhaps, yes. And it can also suggest, it is so they turn to their cramped holes in a way that suggests some secret knowledge that could be harmful or even embarrassing in this case. These children wear skins peeped through by bones and spectacles of steel, with mended glass like bottle bits on stones. All of their time and space are foggy slum, so blot their maps with slums as big as doom. So here the poet says that these children wear skins paved through by bones and spectacles of steel. Now, they do not get enough food, and therefore they are nothing but skin and bones. Okay, so outlines of their skeleton can be seen through their skin. They are so undernourished. And according to the poet, either these children wear old spectacles or they pick them up from the garbage, which perhaps are thrown by the rich children. These mended spectacles remind the poet of pieces of glass bottles that are stuck on the top of stone walls as an anti theft measure. Their life, these children's life, okay, is like these bottle bits on stone that is shattered and broken like bits of broken bottle. And then he talks of time and space. So the concept of all of their time and space are foggy slums. So the concept of time and space for these children dwelling in slums is nothing but a slum on which sits a fog, okay, which means their lives are shrouded with endless darkness. According to the poet, there is no hope of sunrise in this foggy slum. The phrase foggy slum implies poverty, misfortune, sorrow, hunger, hopelessness, lack of opportunities, and injustice. So then in this fourth line of the third stanza, the poet says, so blot their maps with slums as big as doom. I'm sorry, this is not the fourth line. This is the last line of stanza 3. In this line, the poet says that these dirty slums are a blemish on the maps of the civilized world, the world of the rich and powerful people. The poet is therefore deeply moved by their condition, and he implores the map maker to fill this world map with enormous slums so that the slum children do not feel the sadness and succumb, succumb, you can see the spelling over there, to the temptations that a view of the wider world may bring to them. So now we come to the last stanza of this beautiful poem. Unless governor, inspector, visitor, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs break open till they break the town. So in this stanza, according to the poet, there is a ray of hope. That yes, there is a ray of hope for these children. Their destiny can be changed if they are helped by influential and powerful people like maybe a governor, an inspector, a visitor who is, affluent and can donate. So these people take some steps. If these people, unless these people take some steps in the direction of improving these appalling conditions of these children dwelling in slums, these children will be imprisoned in deep dungeons of poverty and misery. The map, okay, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs, you can see the image also, okay, grave, it is very dark, okay. So the world map displayed on the wall acts like a window, and through these windows show them what they could have had. They can't go beyond this. Basically, what does this mean? They can just take a glimpse of the world map, and that's it. They will never even think or imagine of exploring the world. They will never think of stepping out of their slums unless somebody comes to change their destiny. So the displayed map does not tell them how they can achieve it, and hence it shuts upon their lives like catacombs, that is, grave and dark. This map just gives them a glimpse of a different possible world. So in this next line, he says, break open till they break the town. So the poet implores the authorities to break down the shackles and walls of social inequality and injustice that stop these children so that they come out of their filthy surroundings of the slums and enjoy the unlimited privileges of the world. They can open the window of the promising world of opportunities, reach the green fields, and breathe in the open air. Let's go on to the next line now. And show the children to green fields, and make their world run azure on gold sands, and let their tongues run naked into books, the white and green leaves open. History theirs, whose language is the sun. Now, this last line is really my favorite. When we'll come to it, I'll explain. So, now what does he say? The poet has invoked these beautiful images of golden sands of a beach here, and he also says in the beginning that please, I'm just connecting it with the previous line here, children, so just pay attention here. So the poet basically wants the authorities to break down the shackles and walls of social inequality and injustice that is stopping these children from, enjoying these unlimited privileges of the world. They can open the window of the promising world of opportunities, reach the green fields, and breathe in the open air. Now he says, under a blue sky facing out to an open blue sea, the poet wants that these children can run freely on the golden sands. Okay, so as the word means, literally it means clear sky, a bright blue in color like a cloudless sky. Next, the poet requests the figures of authority to allow these children to explore the world not only through the white leaves of a book, but also the green leaves of nature. Okay, please understand that. Run naked, let their tongues run naked means they should have the liberty to express themselves. Into books, the white and green leaves open. So let their tongues naked, I have explained. So the poet wants these children to be empowered with knowledge. Once they are well read and possess the power of knowledge, They will have the power to change the world because history theirs whose language is the sun. This is a vital truth, okay? A vital truth is contained in this metaphor. Nobody listens to the dumb and the downtrodden. People who speak with confidence, power, authority, and a vision are heard and obeyed. So, this line states that only those who are knowledgeable, wise, and experienced make their name in the world and go down the pages of history. Only those whose language is the sun can create history. History is created by those whose ideas and language can motivate, inspire, and influence millions of people. Their language must have the warmth and power of the sun if it is to be effective. Only those who have knowledge, dynamism, and power can prosper. Like the life giving sun, they can change the course of history and influence and inspire others. So that was all on An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum by Stephen Spender. Thank you very much.